This is Economy Watch, what you need to know about New Zealand's economic life today. Brought to you by interest.co.nz.
Kia ora, and welcome to Wednesday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz, and today we lead with news the northern summer is delivering positive economic vibes. But first up today, the expected rise in dairy prices at today's full dairy auction actually came in slightly better than expected. In US dollar terms, prices are up 5.5%, with the key whole milk powder price rising 7.2% and skim milk powder up 4%. Volumes sold were elevated. But in New Zealand dollar terms, the gains were not as strong, up 2.3%, as the Kiwi dollar has been strengthening lately. Today's result could keep that going. China and other North Asia buyers were prominent bidders, making this the biggest rise since March 2021. But having said that, overall prices are still only back to the June 2024 levels, so really it's only a short-term recovery. In the US, retail sales at physical stores were up 4.9% last week from the same week a year ago, reinforcing the rise in retail confidence. In Canada, CPI inflation fell to 2.5% and a three-year low. Actually, there is no surprise here because that is what their central bank predicted for the second half of 2024 when they trimmed rates at the end of last month. And Taiwanese export orders rose a very healthy 4.8% in July from a year ago, up from 3.1% increase in the previous month and exceeding market forecasts of a 2.6% rise. The increase was driven by continued strong demand for AI chips, but elsewhere demand was also quite broad. There's been a good turnaround in 2024 because a year ago these export orders were retreating. And China held its loan prime rates unchanged in August, as expected, after the cuts in July. The one-year prime loan rate is still at 3.45%, while the five-year rate was retained at 3.85%. Both rates are at record lows following the unexpected rate moves down in July. And China has approved a record increase in their nuclear plant expansion, signing off on 11 new facilities to be built. Each one costs about 4.5 billion New Zealand dollars. This adds to the 55 nuclear power plants already active, not including the 10 approved in 2023 and yet to be commissioned. They see this as a central element of their drive for clean and stable energy sources. And Turkey held its official interest rate at 50% in their overnight review. You may recall a year ago they had been battling 70% inflation using the odd Erdogan-inspired approach. But that clearly wasn't working, so a more conventional policy was adopted, raising their policy rate from 6.5%. It is now bringing results, with inflation easing from 75% in May to 62% in July in a notable drop. And German producer prices are still deflating, although only at minus 0.8% from a year ago, half the July rate of decline. Lower energy costs are the key driver, so actually they will like this result. And Sweden cut its official interest rate by 25 basis points to 3.5% and signalled 2 or 3 more similar cuts this year are likely should inflation develop in line with the central bank's outlook. It was the second rate cut of the cycle, easing further from the 4% interest rate first reached in September 2023. And the RBA released the minutes of its August 6 meeting, and those warned of an upside risk to inflation and therefore monetary policy. The risk of inflation not returning to target within a reasonable time frame had increased, those minutes showed. The situation came amid the slow pace of disinflation, signs that the gap between aggregate demand and supply was larger than previously anticipated, and the upward revision to the forecast for final demand. Markets didn't react immediately to this warning. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now just on 3.83% and down 4 basis points from this time yesterday. And the price of gold will start today up $9 at $2,511 an ounce. But oil prices are down 50 US cents at just on $73 a barrel in the US, while the international Brent price is just under $77 a barrel. And the Kiwi dollar starts today up almost another half a cent from yesterday at 61.4 US cents. Against the Aussie, we're up a half a cent too at 91.2 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're up 20 basis points at 55.3 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at 69.3 and up 30 basis points from yesterday. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $58,833 and down 0.7% from yesterday. Volatility over the past 24 hours has been moderate at just over plus or minus 2.3%. You can find links to the articles mentioned today in our show notes, and you can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again tomorrow.